Hey y'all, this is Babs Rolls Ivy, and you're listening to 103.5 FM WNHH. Indeed, they do. The wheels keep turning. I'm Babs Rolls Ivy. This is Love Babs Love Talk, the talking part. A few minutes ago, you were listening to Jeff Grant and I talk about Criminal Justice Insider with Earl Bloodworth. Wonderful conversation. So it becomes a podcast at the end of the day, so you can go back and listen to it. But right now, my guest today is the fabulous Oni Obiacha. Hey, Oni.
Hey, Babs, what's up?
How are you?
I'm doing well.
I've been chasing Oni for about a year. Right? Chasing. And y'all know I don't like to chase brothers, but I'm always chasing brothers.
Yo, that's false news, Babs, not me. You must have a different Oni. You must know someone else by my name, because I was hitting you up to be here. I've been trying to get here for a while.
Mm-hmm.
My little 15 minutes in New Haven.
Listen. So you've been all over the place. Like, you are the man to know in New Haven.
Wow.
Like, I got a wind of you when you were like running the little coffee shop over there.
Wow, yeah, many moons ago.
Yes, which was a great place for vegan cookies and brownies and good coffee.
Yeah.
So I used to meet Rachel Harima and I used to meet there.
Okay, yeah.
Rachel Harima and I used to meet there and hang out.
Yeah,
and then when it closed, I was so like, oh.
All good things must come to an end. You know what I mean? So, but it was good. We really tried to build community in the space.
And you did.
We did.
I thought you did.
We did. It was an honest effort, very intentional. And we had dope people coming through like yourself who made it like what it was. We did a little too much sometimes, crazy parties, but it was all worth it. You gotta learn.
Listen. So now, what are you up to now? I know what you're up to now, but tell the people what you're doing now.
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like it changes every day, but I wear a couple hats. What I get paid to do day to day is I have the pleasure to work at Dwight Hall, which is the Center for Public Service and Social Justice, as their Director of Innovation, really trying to reimagine the role that Yale plays in benefiting the New Haven community and the national and international social justice and public service movements. I also serve as a mentor in residence at the new Sci City, the Center for Innovative Thinking at Yale, where we try to help build cool projects with students and whoever is willing to build capacity to help us do the things that we all know we can do within the university to help the people inside and outside the university as well. So we're really focused on solving real world problems, which I think is fascinating. Outside of Yale, there's something called Breakfast, Lunch, and Dinner. Based in New Haven, based in Hartford, Connecticut, which is a thing of its own that I'm very happy to work with Q, Josh, and Jeff. every day to see how we can build vibrant, connected communities. So those are the big three, I would say, the three things that keep me awake at night and during the day.
Oh, that's a lot.
It's a lot. It's
like
a
you're
lot.
doing a lot, but everything is very community focused.
Absolutely.
And you are a good thread for this community.
I appreciate that.
On a lot of levels, you're a good thread for this community.
I appreciate that.
All right, so let's get into it.
All right. Where you want to start?
Let's start with your work at Dwight Hall.
Yeah, so really, shout out to my guy Peter Crumlish, the ED at Dwight Hall. We had a lot of conversations when I first came to Yale after I sold the coffee shop. And I was working within some other organizations at Yale. And I was like, Peter, there's a lot of cool stuff going on within Yale, but I don't know about, and I come from a background of social entrepreneurship. But I'm saying I don't think there's a market solution to help people who look like me. Because I know at the end of the day, as lovely as my coffee shop was, when I locked the door, I was still a black man in New Haven. And no matter how much I made or what I did, I can't escape that reality. So a lot of people are saying, let's do social entrepreneurship, inherently social enterprise and building businesses that help people are good. But I'm saying as a black business owner, there's nothing I can do. There's no amount of money I can make. There's nothing I can sell for me to feel like I'm safe in these streets.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I talked to Peter. I was like, yo, Peter, I like this social entrepreneurship thing, but I really like what Dwight Hall is doing in the social justice space. And then we had some conversations around how Black Lives Matter started off as a hashtag. The Women's March was a Facebook group. So what is this 21st century idea of public service and social justice? This is pre-election. So we're just thinking about there's some, as a lot of people in camps I rock with don't want to admit, we had social pathologies in the United States for 400 some odd years, right? So this is not a response to anything that's happened recently, but really a response to the institutions that make up this country. Because these institutions were built when I was still considered property. So they were never built to work for people like me. So let's really start talking about that and dismantling that. So Peter's like, all right, bet. Like if that's how you feel, then let's rock out. So that's why I came to Dwight Hall August of last year, really trying to build out programs that can do more to build a culture of empathy within Yale students and the Yale community. Because before we leave our ivory towers to do anything, we have to check and really take some critical looks at ourselves. So really addressing some cultural issues within Yale, the Yale community, and then seeing how we can highlight, I say center, celebrate, and support voices, especially voices of Black women and women of color into these spaces. And that's a lot of programming that I built to try to help get that off the ground. So yeah, just trying to see how it could all go together, man. Like,
I know you've been running around community talking to people and getting some vibe and some flow about, what does New Haven mean to you? Like, how'd you show up in New Haven? Because you talked to me.
Yeah.
And I thought those are such worthwhile conversations because New Haven, believe it or not, has a lot of transient kinds of folks. Yeah. And I think, through the university system, people come, they stay, they leave, they go, they stay, they come, that kind of thing. And so, how do you build community around people who come in and out?
Yeah. And I love that. So even when I was talking to you, it was this idea that I work with, shout to my homie Karen King out of the State New Haven Affairs.
Oh, that's my girl.
I was like, yo, Karen, I have this project I want to do. She's like, cool. But you need to talk to 20 people before you do that because you're not just about to do your own thing. Like, that's not how we rock. I was like, all right, bet. And obviously your name was high up on the list. So I emailed you. We were able to connect. I still appreciate that conversation. And I was able to connect with a bunch of other folks. But really it's this idea of, can we get folks who've lived in New Haven for at least 8 years to come and start supporting Yale students and, more importantly, start informing Yale projects? So it's called the Neighbor in Residence program. And it's really this idea of there's a lot of Yale students, smart, great energy, but they just go and start building things with no respect for the structures or the histories or the institutions or the traditions in New Haven. So and they don't even know who to talk to. And I'm from Hartford. I grew up in Windsor, Connecticut. Like, I'm not a New Havener. So I can't even say like, yo, talk to me. I'm not the plug. It's people who actually like generationally have been here. So after talking to a bunch of people across New Haven, I think the Neighbor in Residence program really solidified around this idea of centering and highlighting voices of people who lived in New Haven for a longer period of time and allowing them the space to really start talking to students, to challenge students about what they want to do, and really show respect to people doing the work before those students got here and who will continue to do the work after these students leave. So Beatrice Codiani is one of them.
That's my girl.
Yeah. Sex Workers Alliance Network, who's doing some amazing work. There's Paul Brian Hudson from So Far Sounds.
I love him too.
Amazing.
And his wife.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the Quay women.
And Kim Hart, who's doing a lot of stuff around homelessness and food apartheid, right? Anti-food apartheid work. So, I mean, they're the three musketeers right now, really talking to students, challenging students. Obviously, shout out to my big homie, Baljit.
That's my girl.
Baljit Sandhu.
Do you know Baljit is my girl?
I know Baljit's your girl. Was Baljit on the show before me?
No, she hasn't been on yet. But as soon as she bring her little self back.
We'll be back.
Because she's coming back to root here for a minute, right? So as soon as she gets back, she's going to be on.
So Baljit, obviously, got to show love to her because she's a pioneer of this work in the UK, really showing how people with lived experiences can show support and build capacity.
I heard her speak at the women's thing at Yale a few weeks ago. And she was like, listen, we are tired of folks parachuting in. I was like, get it, girl. Parachuting in and just going to do what they want to do and not even talk to the community. I was like, that goes out in the UK too.
Yeah, that's everywhere. So Baljit, she brings that energy. I'm just in the back taking notes because everything I'm trying to build out, she informs a lot of what I do. So I got to show respect and honor that. But yeah, I just think there's so much capacity to do dope stuff in New Haven, especially because there's so many assets, right? Like, people don't know New Haven's such a thriving, abundant community.
I think so too, Oni. I think New Haven is a thriving community, but somehow or other, once you start to fan out, that story gets lost a little bit. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
It gets lost when you get up in parts.
Yep. I think, and again, this is just me being a little messy because I don't know, I'm just my own opinion, but I think we're not culturally what the beauty and passion and resilience of communities like Fairhaven, of New Hallville, traditionally aren't seen as successful in other neighborhoods, right, or other areas. Baljit, she and I had a conversation around this idea of zero waste, a circular economy. But black people have been doing that. That's why we eat every piece of pig. You know what I mean? Like, we've been doing that, but no one honors that as circular economy. The Native Americans, the indigenous folk have been doing that. So we just have to start redefining what innovation looks like, especially within the halls of Yale and then
Now you're not a Yaley.
I'm not a Yaley.
You're not a Yaley, but yet you feel some kind of way about having them use their resources for good.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is for two reasons. I think my argument is that a better New Haven is a better Yale. Hey, Paul Bass. A better New Haven is a better Yale. So really, and a better Yale is a better New Haven, right? So it's not a zero-sum game. We can all really benefit if we know the value that the other one has.
Yeah.
And I don't think right now Yale's honestly looking at the value of New Haven. And there's a lot of folks who say Yale, get out of here, but Yale does provide a lot of jobs and does stuff, right?
I think they're the second largest provider?
Yeah, the first and second largest. Yeah. Between the hospital and university?
Yes, first and second.
Joe, y'all got the best folks in here, man. I'm not hearing enough, Baz. But you're trying to keep me away, man. I see your homies out here.
You're welcome to come anytime.
I appreciate
and you should go on Joe Ugly show.
I've been there.
You've been on Ugly in the morning?
Yeah, a couple times. That's why
but you ain't been here.
I'm waiting for the invite. I'm waiting for the invite.
Well, you here now, and we having a good conversation. So
yeah, I think we just all need to see the value in the other party and build capacity and power so that we can work together in an equitable manner.
I like that.
That's it.
I like that.
That's it. Build power.
So how do you do this work?
Very carefully. I mean? It's just a lot of conversations. It's a lot of conversations and a lot of showing people. I have one of my mentors at Yale who says, malignant versus benign ignorance, and a lot of times at Yale, the ignorance is benign. People just don't even think of it, which I don't know if that's better or worse. You don't look at community around you as being an asset to what you're trying to build. But I know that if it's benign, we can work through that. I show you the value proposition. I can break it down. I can show you it don't cost that much money, and then we can go from there. And a lot of people are open. I was ready to fight when I came to this position. Like, I thought I was gonna have to do X, Y, Z, and people were gonna be like, nah, Oni, we don't do that, blah, blah, blah. But everyone's like, all right, bet. Like, if that's the move you want to make, it makes a lot of sense. So just being that person who's kind of pushing the narrative of the university and pushing the narrative of Yale and showing that there's opportunities for everyone to work together.
Cool.
Because there are.
Yeah. So are you enjoying this work? What have you found the most challenging?
Man. Wow. I mean, everything's a challenge. To be honest with you, it's tough being young in this work. It's tough being a young black man in this work. It's tough being I mean? It's so
because nobody's taking I mean, once they hear you talking, they get used to you.
Sure.
They're like, oh, he's solid.
Yeah.
But you know.
But before that, you know what I mean?
That,
so
like,
yeah.
Boy, what you know about anything?
And this is in Yale and New Haven. You know what I mean? So it's real, but it's just self-care, a lot of self-care, a lot of talking to folks, a lot of being honest with folks. But I think the most challenging part is just being able to, and this is something I've been learning throughout my time at Yale, being able to not rush the project or program that you're trying to do. Because the institution, the organization, the way the structure is set up, they just want you to show an outcome and bang, 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 and go through it, and then boom, here's my deliverable. But if you're like, no, I'm going to do this with intention takes patience, intention takes time. So it's trying to not work on everyone else's timeline where they're trying to push stuff through, and you're trying to pull it back and say, no, we got to talk to these people and do it the right way. Because we got time. We got time. That's something with the...
Are they receptive to that? Are they respecting that stance?
Yeah, because it's a balance, you know? I mean, obviously I can't do all my programs that way. I got to get some small wins to show that they're paying me to do something, you know? And even within the New Haven community, showing up and kind of dapping people up and having these conversations and kind of always being present. But the big things, the overarching vision for the way I'm trying to build out my programming, especially shout out to my homie Marquita Taylor at Dwight Hall. That's definitely my right hand, and she and I go back and forth on what it looks like to do this work. But yeah, people are receptive to it once they see the value in it, and just showing time and time again like why we're doing this work and how we're showing up to be present in what we do. But there's value, and it's tough to try to slow things down, but you just gotta know how to play that game.
Wow. All right, so tell me about breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I love that title.
Wow, yeah. So my homie Q, shout out to Q, he's at Twitter right now, killing the game. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So
it sounds like a dating site to me.
You know what? Wow.
I feel like I'm like this is a great dating opportunity. Like you can just like match people up, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm digging that.
So breakfast, lunch, and dinner started because three of my homies. One is Josh, who's my good friend from high school. My other boy is Q, which is my good friend from college. My other boy Jeff, who's my good friend from post-college.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to University of Connecticut.
Okay.
I'm a CT boy, born and raised. So we kind of all got together, and at the time, Q had this blog called Breakfast, Lunch, and Dinner, where he would review a good album for breakfast, a good album for lunch, and a good album for dinner.
Oh, I love that.
So he already had the URL, and at the time, I had the coffee roasting company, A Happy Life, with Vishal. And then my boy Josh had just started a clothing line called De Muerte. And then my boy Jeff was working on handmade shoes, the Brothers Crisp, all in Hartford. So we were young dudes, early 20s, with kind of premium brands, starting businesses. And then my boy Q had just returned doing some editorial work in New York. So the four of us got together and saying, we have these brands, how do we promote these brands in a way that's like not just online marketing? So we started throwing parties downtown. We said, there's no young people doing anything that we want to rock with, so we don't even know the people to advertise to. You know what I mean? Like, so we just got together and we just started throwing parties and throwing parties and throwing parties with a lot of intention. We named a couple of our friends who have never been in the same room, and we say, how do we market something so all these folks are in the room together because we all rock with them in different aspects of our life. So that's how we started getting this idea of what we call, or the academic term is social cohesion. How do we bring people together and create cohesive societies, right? And hopefully from that, build a collective culture so everyone feels like their communities has a culture that they can be a part of. So then some nonprofit folks and some institutions started getting a wind of like they just started looking at like, how the heck do you guys get all these young folks at your party, right? We heard that all the young people are leaving Connecticut and leaving Hartford, so you're out here turning up on a Thursday, and this joint is packed. You know, I'm the bartender, like, you know what I mean? And it's like, you know, shout to
like,
Electric
we didn't even know there was this many young people still
They
in
did
town.
it. They did it. So,
oh my God, that's so cool.
So we started, we had organizations started reaching out to us to start doing some consulting work and starting building programmings that kind of reach that demographic, but in an authentic way.
Like, we want to know your friends.
Yeah. Yeah. So we did that. And then we had this idea of, you know, consulting is fun. We still do it. But we also know that there are certain challenges and opportunities within communities that nonprofits or for-profits, for that matter, just don't want to tackle. They don't have the capacity. So we're saying, let's have the consulting be the back end of our work, but also feed into our own projects.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing we did was, at this point, this is a couple years down the line, I was commuting back and forth from Hartford to New Haven on bus for the coffee shop.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was rough. The
Oh my
Peter Pan
God.
at 5:30 in the morning. Yeah.
You're going to need all the coffee you can make.
Man, who you telling? That was rough.
Oh my
Because
God,
my car
Oni.
had broke down, and I was an entrepreneur. I didn't have the money. So what happened was I only had a bike in Hartford, and I had never owned a bike since I was young. So I didn't even know like how to fix it, how to do this, that, and the third with it. So I was like, all right, bet I need to go to a bike shop in Hartford to like take care of my bike because it's my only form of transportation. Realized there's no bike shop in Hartford. There was
Not one?
not one bike shop. You had to go to the suburbs, West Hartford, Glastonbury, South Windsor. No bike shop in Hartford. So Jeff and I and Q and Josh were like, we work with some other people to put together the Hartford Slow Roll. So essentially, we just get as many people as we could who own bikes, who like biking, and we just bike around the city on a Sunday afternoon, just to explore Hartford. Because we knew that if you get people together,
love the slow roll.
that's it, just slow roll. Shout to Detroit, start in Detroit, you know, critical mass, slow roll, and we just bike around. You know what I mean? The homies will come up, and then we end at a bar, and it'll be cool. So eventually, we got enough people kind of coming together and biking, who also realized, there's no bike shop in Hartford. So again, going back to that
That is crazy to me.
Crazy. No bike shop in Hartford. Capital of
Like not one,
not
like some
one
little,
bike
dinky
shop.
hole in the wall kind of.
Nope. I mean, everyone had a homie, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
everyone had a homie that they could do something with, but there was no official bike shop. So we got these folks together and kind of going off this idea of like throwing parties in order to activate these communities to maybe purchase some coffee or buy some shoes. We said, what if we build community of bikers to then raise money to start a bike shop? So we got these community bikers together, and we worked with this nonprofit down in Hartford on Park Street to start BCCO, Bicicleta Comunidad, which is now the first, and not the first, but the only bike shop in Hartford, Connecticut.
Wow.
We raised over $10K on GoFundMe.
What?
We worked with them. Yeah. So it's things that's when we first realized, like, okay, our theory of change, again, academia terms, right? If you get people together and you can activate them to build their communities in the way that they want to see fit. And that was our first proof of concept in doing that. So now that's all we're trying to do. We have another big project, the No Good Market, where we had like this essentially abandoned parking lot. Well, it's a parking lot in between in a very creative neighborhood in Hartford, and we're saying, Jeff was like, what if we put food trucks here and got people together on a monthly basis? So now it's the second Thursday of every month. We got several hundred people coming out, listening to music, DJs, art, like it's dope. It's called the No Good Market, KNOW Good Market. And we're just trying to bring people together. And we're just trying to bring people together.
We need that. Can you do that here?
You know what? We're trying.
I know we have a food truck festival thing. But that's a whole different kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's a different thing.
Yeah. This is monthly. This is bringing the folks together. And with no need or opportunity to buy stuff. Like, people just need a place to post up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Post up, maybe.
Without being sold something.
That's it. That's it. That's where you find your future X. Like I always say, the No Good Market. Like, you find your future X there. Future X, and you see, it's like, hey, what? And then, oh man, and then you go back a couple months later. So I'm shameless in that. That's how we roll, and I think that's the energy Connecticut needs right now.
So talk to me about the Commons, because you got this collaborative effort with the Arts Council, and they're doing this whole thing called the Commons, which I dig this whole concept because I've come to two.
Good.
And I
Appreciate
dig it.
that.
And I'm on the Arts Council board now.
Yeah. Good. Yes. That's the energy we love.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Commons, shout out to the big homies at the Arts Council. Dana reached out to us. He said, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I see what you guys are doing in Hartford. I understand the energy you want to bring. So what would that look like if we got together and did something? And again, I love the Arts Council and the way that Daniel's really taking the organization because he wants the membership to be free.
Well, he's making it, he's making it very inclusive.
Exactly. Inclusive and approachable. You know what I mean? Because
with inclusion comes approachability.
Hopefully, you know what I mean? And I know you'll hold him to task for that.
Oh, you are.
So that's why I
have.
appreciate you. Good. So yeah, he kind of reached out to us, and we're just looking at it like we can do something again. Can we have just a monthly get together? Where can artists and creators and tastemakers just meet up and just dance?
It feels very Harlem 1930s.
Oh, stop it!
Doesn't it?
Absolutely.
I just need more people of color.
That's it.
To
we need to get them
in.
out here. Yep.
But for the most part, I dig the vibe. I went to Bergamo's.
Good.
I dug that whole scene.
Yes.
I went to Lotta Studio.
Yes.
Dug the whole scene. So I was like, I didn't make it to the bicycle shop.
Yeah. That was
because
a good
I couldn't
one
find
too.
any parking.
Good note. I'll write that down. Yeah, that's a good note. That's great, actually. That's great feedback. So that's what we're trying to do. Bring the energy of just bringing creative people together. Because again, if we bring them together and now you have a bunch of people of color, folks from all the neighborhoods coming and just partying every month, then there could be a couple of grants that come through the Arts Council that they'd never have known about.
Right.
But they've already interacted with Arts Council events. They're already on the mailing list. Now you get them in.
Right.
So that's we want to be that first touch to really start broadening and building out capacity for creatives and people want to make a better New Haven.
And I love the use of these spaces. Unconventional spaces for a good time. New Haven is flush with bars and restaurants, and I love going to I'm always in a good space.
Yeah.
But to be in these unconventional spaces and have a good time with people, I think it's just brilliant.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to the Commons.
Yeah, thank you. And shout out to again Paul, running So Far Sounds and just uncovering and unveiling spaces.
He's a really interesting young man.
Paul's the
he's got this whole other vibe that I've not seen in a long time in young people. He's just like, I'm gonna do this thing. He's got a bohemian spirit.
Yep.
With a little social justice underneath.
Yeah.
I was like, I dig that a lot.
Yeah, man. I love Paul. That again, and for me coming from Windsor, and then coming up to New Haven, growing up in Windsor, moving to Hartford, and then coming to New Haven. It's just shocking the different culture, but the energy out here. You know what I mean? It's like there are just folks like Paul, but there are also folks like Arian and Hartford, who's an amazing dancer. And I just wish all these people can link up.
Yeah.
Right? Like Hartford and New Haven, if we got together, we can. Oh my, we would have a culture that can really inform all of the East Coast, and I believe that.
Yeah, people wouldn't be running to New York like
that's
they
what
do.
I'm saying.
Which I love running to New York.
I'm going there after this. Like no shade to New York, but we can have some good time in New Haven, and Hartford. So no shade to New York at all. But we can do it in our own backyard.
So tell me, what do you see for the future? What do you think? Because you're young. How old are you?
I'm 28.
Oh, so you're very young.
I'm very young, yeah.
So you can hope and dream far into the future in ways that, I'm not going to do at 55, So tell me, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm really, 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 really excited for New Haven right now. I'm in a space where I look at people like Eric Clemens doing what he's doing at Comcast.
Oh my God, he is my love.
Man.
And I said it in a meeting the other day. With some of the stuff that they're gonna do on Dixwell.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
I'm just delighted beyond measure.
Between that project, between Titus Kafar's new project.
Oh my God, I have not met him.
Really?
Love him. Love his work.
Yep.
I'm like, oh my God.
You need to link up. That's my big bro. That's my big bro.
Make the connections. Introduce me. I'll have him sitting in here too.
He should come here. Yeah, between those two, between just the ECIC, so Innovation Places, it's a fund that's investing $2 million over. This is now starting year 2, but $2 million a year into New Haven. That's huge. Gonna get stuff like Collab, got some money from that. The Ives Common over at the New Haven Free Public Library is doing some great work with that. And then just some other economic development stuff, and even, you know, the community foundation kind of getting around to investing in businesses through the mission related investment fund.
Were you at the annual meeting when they had
Amy
Miss
Lou? Oh my gosh.
I'm still talking about this woman.
Yo, that inclusive. It's funny. It's
What?
funny. I came here. What day was it? I think it was when did the Great Give launch?
May 1st and May 2nd.
That was May 1st.
Mm-hmm.
I was walking to work. And I saw Will Ginsburg leaving. He just must. It was early. He
Yes.
just must. I was like, "Hey, yo, Will, yo, let me holler at you real quick." Like, I really shouted this man down from across the street. I was like, Will, good to meet you. My name is Oni. Appreciate you having Amy Lou come. We got to talk more about it.
Oh, I did the same thing. When I walked in, he was here. I said, "Listen, let me tell you something. Come here. Let me peep something to you." I know he was like, "I'm tired of these black people running up on me today." It's like, I ain't never had this many black people talk to me in 24 hours. I said, listen. I dug this Lou sister. She talked that inclusive.
Yes.
I said, you know what, Will, you know what needs to happen? Somebody needs to train these nonprofits boards on how to recruit people of color. So that they don't go out there willy-nilly, half-ass talking about, ooh, black person, come here. No. There's got to be some kind of way that they know how to do that. And he was like, ooh. I was like, well, listen, call me. I'll be happy to sit down and flesh it. Now, I ain't trying to do it, but I'll be happy to talk about it. But yes, listen, that woman won me over. And she called, those white folks in that audience was not comfortable.
And
she might as well have been Michelle Wolf. When she said,
shout out to Michelle Wolf.
Do y'all know how she's like? Do you know how much money you lose when you don't deal with reentry? I was like, whoa. This little Asian woman standing up here talking the truth to
white
power.
People.
She said, your boards are all white. Too many white people on these boards. And y'all need to break that up. I was like, oh!
Not wrong, though. I hear no lies.
I was sitting there and I was like, oh, these white folks is trying to get up out of here.
I hear no lies. and what I always say, and this is what I say a lot of time at Yale, is this idea that, you know, a lot of people, well, that's not true. I've had conversations with some people who are saying, you know what, we need to get black people in here because they don't have opportunities, and they're, you know, like literally this country was built for them not to succeed, which is true. But also, I don't think people understand the benefit that your nonprofit will have by having black folks at the table. You know what I mean? This is not you're helping me. It's like you're helping yourself by having me here. Like put some respect on my name when you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like this is not like, oh, a handout joint. Like I'm gonna come. I know what you need. I talk to the people. These are my homies. Let's talk about this stuff. You know what I mean? So I think we really you know, we need to start flipping the script and saying it's not just a handout to get black folks in. It's like we need to be better, and by doing that, we need black folks here with us.
That's right. And when you listen, that's her conversation resonated with me so much so that I still feel compelled to sort of like, I don't know how I could carry this work that she talked about out, but I feel every bit of it. And I think you are a good manifestation of what that is or what that could look like, you know? Like really, you could really be the catalyst for that.
I'm here for it. Yo, Will, if you want to email me back, let's talk, Will. I'm here for
funny.
it.
So he got a 1-2 black punch. He got me and you in the same.
Hey, yo, Will. Looking around like, do I know you? It's like, yo, you don't know me, matter of fact, so you should be looking at me crazy, but I need to holler at you right now.
Well, Ratasha Smith is over there. Do you know Ratasha Smith
I don't know
from the
Ratasha.
Community Foundation?
No, I do not.
Oh, she's a
Ratasha,
gem.
Email me. I'm here.
Yeah, Ratasha is she used to write for the Inner City. She's a Bennett graduate. She went to Bennett. She was at the mayor's office for a hot minute. Now she's over there doing the good stuff at the Community Foundation. And she keeps it very black over there.
Okay, good.
So she might be the one to sort of connect all the dots.
I'm happy to have that. I talked to my boy Leon the other day, and he's just an amazing individual at the Community Foundation. They got some good folks out there.
They do, and you know,
Caprice.
for a while they didn't, but now they do.
Yeah, that's real.
You know, I mean, I've seen. It's my town. I know my town. So they've had moments where, you know, it was very sort of not connected. But it just feels like they are really, really, really putting those tentacles out to the community in ways that they have not done before. So, shout out, kudos to Will Ginsburg for
shout out to Will,
like let me play the inclusion card.
I'm here for it. Will, if you need anyone to champion those
like
efforts,
spades. Boom! What you got?
Like a dominoes game. We're about to be breaking the table. But I don't know. Everything that's going on, I really think we have an opportunity to start building an inclusive, I always say, a connected, vibrant, inclusive New Haven. Like, just get this energy, get this connectivity here, get everyone speaking truth to power and building capacities for them to do amazing things. All I want to do. And I think right now, Yale is the best place for me to do it. But who knows? Like, I'm happy to kind of see what other opportunities are there to kind of just and work with anyone who wants to work with me to see what that could look like.
Well, it seems like a good time to sort of do that because everybody, I get this sense that, even in the face of all the tragic stuff that's going around in the country and racism showing up in ways that we haven't seen in a very long time. Not to say that it went away and came back. No, it's been here, but now it's got its own platform and it's amplified from the highest office in the land. That I still believe that people want a different life.
Absolutely.
And they want culture and arts to be a part of that. And they want to see communities thrive. I mean, I see it, even in the face of all that other kind of stuff, I see it. And so when I see the work that's going on in the Dixwell community with the new Q House, with what the stuff that Concat is going to do, when I heard this inclusion conversation at the Community Foundation annual meeting, and then some of the stuff that the arts and ideas people are trying to sort of rope in. You might want to go over there too and spread some magic.
Hey,
have a conversation with them.
Yo, you know what?
I'm just saying.
Yes,
and I know they listen because they listen to me.
Yes.
I mean, they listen to this show.
The answer is yes. I'm happy to
Y'all
talk
need to call Oni.
Those folks more to see how we can do something that makes sense for a lot of people.
Yeah, because I think I think they need a little,
just a little,
just a little sprinkle.
Just a little, just little droplets here and there.
We help them out. So so what else is going on?
Man,
because I don't think you need anything that's going on. But.
I've just been thinking a lot about what it looks like to do this work in New Haven at this time, right?
Do you live in New Haven now? Or
I
you
do.
Still?
I do. I live in Worcester Square. Yeah.
I like it. The the dogwoods are pretty.
Yeah.
The cherry blossoms.
The cherry blossoms. Yeah.
Ooh.
I missed that festival. That thing was crazy.
I know it's always crazy.
But
go early.
Yeah.
And leave early.
That makes sense. That's what I did last year. I had a little blanket out there.
That's what I did. I came early.
My spot. Yeah.
And that was the first time I've ever gone. This is my town.
Yeah.
I have never gone.
Wow.
So last year I went. I had a good time. Went early, left early.
Good. That's all you need to do. Get 1 or 2 trucks before the line get crazy.
Yeah.
In and out.
Bought pieces of jewelry.
Yeah.
Out. Bye.
So yeah, I've been thinking a lot about what it means to do this work now as a young black man, right? So I had the opportunity to talk to I run a program, Marquita and I run a program called the Social Innovation Lab, where we take Yale students and New Haven community members, put them through an 8-week incubator to how to build a social justice effort, right? For-profit, social movement, what have you. And I met this one woman, Miss Deborah, from Grace Chapel Church, because she's in the program. And she was saying how, Oni, let's meet at Starbucks. The Starbucks just moved, right? To right across the street here.
Did they move or did they open another one?
They moved. That one on Chapel and was it Chapel and Church?
The one that's outside in the corner?
Yeah. It's not there anymore. They closed that one and opened the one over here.
Oh, I thought it was in addition to. I was like, what's going on, Starbucks? Do we need all?
Yeah, like they probably have one at every single corner around the green. Like, yo, that's enough. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I met with Miss Deborah and we were supposed to meet there at 9, and she was running a little late because she went to the wrong one. No problem at all. I was got there around 9:02. She got there around 9:10, and she was so apologetic. Oni, I'm so sorry for being late. I'm like, Miss Deborah, come on, don't even worry about. I got time. Whatever you need, whatever you need. And she said, no, Oni, I feel bad because I just know how recently a black man got arrested for staying in a Starbucks and waiting for someone.
See, ain't that black women? And black women always taking care
of you, and
always taking care.
And in that moment, I was like, whoa, the fact that she had to hold on to that. And the fact that I didn't even, for a split second, I forgot my blackness in these spaces.
Yeah.
That could have got me caught up.
Yep.
So like,
Yep.
what does it mean to maneuver through
Yep.
these spaces as a young black man, having to keep my guard up, but also trying to open it up to community? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That like vulnerability, but I also am trying to survive in these streets.
Yeah.
So that's something. That,
And you want to live well.
and I want to live well. I want to thrive.
Right?
I want to live an abundant life.
I want to go to Starbucks without being arrested.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, it was crazy, kind of just thinking about the social dynamic of the time. As you say, you have racism coming from the highest office in the land, and how that kind of shown itself in different ways across this nation. It's just interesting thinking how I can best do work, because again, all this the economic development work through Concat and through Titus and all these other, I mean, Amy Lou is amazing, but again, you're still black in America. So I'm thinking, how can I take that work and help translate it to the social justice work that needs to be done in this country for me to even have that success? Because I'm not trying to start a business and get shot. You know what I mean? That's it. That's real. I can't. When at the coffee shop, we had hoodies that I didn't feel comfortable wearing because I can't put my hoodie up.
Yeah.
And that's my business. You know what I mean? So like,
I know,
how do you grapple with that?
But
how do
you know
grapple
what?
with
And
that?
we have a real history of black businesses being threatened.
Yep.
I mean, that's in our history.
Yep.
That's in the history.
Yep.
And so that's real. And so even in 2018, it transfers and it's still in our DNA of that kind of fear.
Yep.
You know.
Joe Ugly always talks about Black Wall Street. You know what I mean? How like that was started in Oklahoma. You had this thriving black community.
Tulsa, yes.
Yeah, Tulsa, Oklahoma. And it had a thriving black community, and it was literally burned down.
And
it
they
was literally
burned
burned
it
down all the way down.
But not just, it was Tulsa.
Yep.
It was Rosewood.
Yep.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of places where, you know, that we tried to sort of create for ourselves
Yep.
thriving communities.
Yep.
And then I just read a piece, I think it was in the Times or the Washington Post, where they talk about the reason why black people don't have the entrepreneurial spirit that everybody thinks we should have is because generation after generation and generation, people have started businesses and white folks have come in and just literally burnt it.
Literally.
Just burnt it down.
Just burned it down.
And so that teaches you
Yep.
over generations that, nah, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's your uncle telling you he had a business, but he still can get a loan to build his business more.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
It's like the institutions are so adept at just oppressing these communities.
Yeah.
Like racism is so embedded
Yes.
into it that why would I want to be entrepreneurial, right? When like generations ago, people who look like we more allowed access to housing in nice neighborhoods and all these other things, right? So it's like these institutions are not built for me to succeed. So how do we, and this is something I talked to Eric for a long time about, this idea of we need to start rebuilding our social contract with the organizations, institutions who want to do good by us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because right now we don't trust them. We need to start saying like, okay,
And that's true.
Pay us well.
Yes.
Give us our bennies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Matter of fact, give me some equity in this business as well. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So it's like even Mayor Harp talking about a lot more about worker-owned cooperatives and things of that nature. It's like that's the energy I think New Haven, and again, for some reason, I feel like that time is now to do that work.
And I
well.
think this is a city where you could do it and do
Absolutely.
it successfully.
Absolutely.
And it could become the model because New Haven has always positioned itself as a model city on a lot of areas: community policing, Yale homebuyer program,
Yep.
all education stuff,
Yep.
Head Start, Yale students incubating programs here like LEAP,
Yep.
Jumpstart for Young Children.
point, yeah.
So this city has a real history of being on the front lines of that kind of thinking.
Yep.
So I think you're right. I think
Yep.
you're onto something. Now, how do you tap into it? How do you ride the wave across all these 28 communities?
Yep.
Right, because
Yep.
28 of them.
That's
right?
it is with their own histories, right?
And their own histories and their own
traditions.
territories.
Yep. And their own pettiness and their own pettiness.
Oh my
in
God!
abundance, talking about hey,
Girl, you don't have to tell me. I know. I grew up in Church Street South, right? So that's technically the Hill, and so you know people from the Ville, you know people from KSI. I don't even know if they call it KSI anymore, but and Ashford Street and all these other kinds of places. So I get the whole pettiness.
That's real. But
it's real.
But also, I think, and I say this fundamentally, I truly believe everyone wants to do what's best for themselves and the people around them.
Yeah.
But we just have different ways of thinking what that looks like.
Yeah.
Right. So we just need to get that all on the same page and saying, you can do good by me, I can do good by you, and we won't be taking away from anything from each other. Right.
Yeah.
So I think the more opportunities we have to convene folks and just get them in a room and talk and just get that trauma out there. You know what I mean? Just release that trauma and say, or at least name it.
Yeah.
Like, nah, like the community foundation did XYZ to me. The best thing about me, Karen King connected me with all those people were, before I did the neighbor in residence program, was so many people had the opportunity to name the way that they were slighted at one point by Dwight Hall.
Yeah.
That
and
happened.
that's some real,
that's real. Like, oh, you're a Dwight Hall bet. So, you know, and people dragged me. People dragged me. But then I showed up again. I was like, all right, cool. Now let's work. And they were like, all right, cool. They just need to get that out there. You know, they just need to get that out there. And you keep showing up and have these conversations. But I think a lot of time, a lot of the trauma and a lot of the way these institutions have oppressed these voices in the communities go unaddressed for so long.
Yes. That's true.
And we just need a place to genuinely like talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
But it can't be, you know, yes, talk about it. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. I was thinking maybe, you know, sometimes the talking part could go on for a long time.
Yep.
And, you know, you got to cut that off.
That's true. You got to be about the action.
But you want people to be heard and you want people to be made whole by any slight or injustice that they have endured or suffered. So, I mean, for me, when I was a kid growing up, the Afro-Am Center was the place. You know, Yale's Afro-Am Center was the center of what we considered Yale. Like everything I knew about Yale was funneled through the Afro-Am Center back in the day. They threw the parties, they had the workshops, and they invited us in. You know, there's little black kids from all around this town, and they invited us in, and they made us feel welcome. And they had us believing that, you know, we belonged there. Seriously.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if they still do. I mean, I think there's always that in their undertone. I don't know if Dwight Hall has ever had that vibe.
Yeah, that's real. That's real.
You know, I don't think they've ever had that vibe.
Yeah, and I think Dwight Hall's been around since 1886 or something like that. So, and this is something we talk about within the organization all the time. It's like, yes, we're here to serve Yale students, but also we need to be the best we can for the people who the Yale students are serving, and that's the Haven community. You know what I mean? Like, yes, we're here, like, we're a separate nonprofit from Yale. They handle all our back end stuff, but at the end of the day, if we're not doing right by the community, then we're not doing right by anyone.
Yeah.
That's real.
That's true.
And I think the first steps that we're having within the organization to talk about that is, how can we get more folks in to just celebrate each other and just be a space where they can celebrate each other? And we just remove ourselves from that.
Yes.
We don't have to center ourselves in everything that's going on, and then from there, allow us to work together to do some amazing things.
I love that. All right, so we're about to wind down. So what do you do for fun?
Wow, great question.
What's the Oni fun calendar like?
Wow, Oni fun. So I'll say May 11th, Pacific Standard Tavern.
I saw that.
Summer hours, me, my big homie Julius, my guy Paul.
I love Julius, who was in India, wherever he was, Polynesia, wherever he was for a minute.
We're throwing a party May 11th, summer hours. Look it up on Facebook. It's just, I dance, and I dance.
I've never seen you dance.
You know, I'm in the corner two-stepping.
Right.
You know, it's me just.
Listen, every brother got a good two-step.
A tight two-step. And I got multiple two-steps in the bag. You know what I mean? I'm a two-step connoisseur, if you will. But yeah, so May 11th, everyone can pull up to that. It's free before 11, so just get there, have fun. $5 after that, but get there early, hang out, dance. We got some local DJs.
I've never been in Pacific Tavern.
Yeah, come
so that might be fun to come on
Pacific
through.
Stand Tavern. It's nice. It's a nice little joint. We play the music that we always wanted to hear in the club, but we don't have opportunities here in the club. You know what I mean? We play the joints. Vanity doesn't spin.
You
know
sound
what I
like
mean?
me. I was like, I don't know this music. Where's the music I like?
Yeah, we play the music you like. Yeah, so that's what I do for fun. I get out, I hang with my homies.
But that sounds like your social work. I mean, it sounds like the work that you do. The fun you have sounds like the work you do.
You know, and that's why I know I'm doing the right work. You know what I mean? Because it's the same. There's no separation. I love my inbox in the same way I love hanging out two-step with the homies. Like, I just see myself as indulging and being very passionate about everything I do. And I'm blessed to say that it all lines up pretty well for me.
I so enjoy talking to you.
Oh, no,
you
my
have
pleasure.
To come back.
I would love to.
This was one of my favorite conversations.
Oh, thank you, Babs.
Oh, Oni, you are the best. You are the best. All right, Brian Slater, I'm going to play us out. I hope I see you around soon. I know I will. Because you in these streets. And if you keep running up, me and you running up on Will Ginsburg. Oh, All right, if y'all just tuned in, I'm leaving. This is Babs Rose Ivy. This has been Love Babs Love Talk on 103.5 FM, WNHH. Live streaming on New Haven Independent. Stay tuned because you know what? I'm back on with the Pundits. And you know what we do? We cut it up with the politics of the day. And it's Friday, so you know it's going to be good. I'll talk to y'all soon.
love, but it's not. 'Cause you didn't check in his baggage. He had cash and he really looked hot. This song could be about your happiness, but you're so focused on his bait, you're gonna let a good catch get away. This song could be about how we first met, but how we gonna reminisce when you haven't got over him yet. This song could be about what you're searching for. You're looking all over town, and I'm knocking on your front door. This could be, it could be about us. This could be all about us. Yeah, but it ain't gonna be about us. This song could be about our wedding day, but you just had to go to see him. That decision left me in dismay. This song should be about when I got your call saying you weren't ready for marriage, that you couldn't commit at all. This song should be about our happy years. Instead it's about when he hurt you, I was there to dry your tears. This song could be about how I'm not around. See, I came to my senses, putting my feet back on the ground. This could be, it could be about us. This could be all about us. Yeah, but it ain't gonna be about us. If I cried for you one more time, somebody's taking fucking me. My friends say I was blind to lay it all on the line for you, but you didn't care, so I felt like a fool. But I'm not a fool. I'm not a fool. This could be, it could be about us. All about us. Yeah, but it ain't gonna be about us, baby. I'm gonna write this song.
Hi, this is Aaliyah Swaby, and you're listening to WNHH-LP 103.5 FM, broadcasting live from New Haven, Connecticut, and streaming live at www.newhavenindependent.org.
Good morning and welcome to Dateline New Haven. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make the Elm City tick. Nothing ticks
my
better
mind
than
for Harry.
Pundit Friday, which we're about to begin here in the
on my
WNHH
face.
studio with the #1 pundits in the media universe. Pundits like the dairy-free goddess of our grassroots radio operation, the birthday woman, the belle of our ball, the managing editor of the Inner City News,
Hey, hey.
host of WH's Love Babs. That's all in one person. Babs Rawls Ivy.
Indeed it is. Indeed
Like
it
the
is.
omnipresent flyest news hunter-gatherer this side of Fleet Street, star New Haven independent reporter Markeisha Ricks,
Burned
With the
the
coolest
midnight
haircut.
oil last night.
Harry Droz is theoretically not working today, not here,
See,
but I have
Harry,
a
I
feeling.
moved my mic so you can see my face.
But my guess is he is going to be typing in comments if we insult Donald Trump.
Come on,
Yeah.
Harry. You're supposed to be like taking some time off. Calm down.
Also, we don't have Pinsky here, so maybe he'll relax. But anyway, we also have in the studio the straight shooter from Bermuda,
Oh boy.
the mystical and metaphorical man on the money, the tackler of tempestuous and titan of temperance, the righteous reaper of restitution,
Well, all right.
the exalted expostulator of extemporaneous exegesis, the bossa nova mover and shaker, the griot of the grassy knoll, the erudite earl of ergonomics, the liberated lion of lucidity, the maniacal monarch of mercy, the blister barbecue of brain-dead bozos, the beyond just somewhat honorable
Tell me,
high
you need a
priest of
t-shirt.
hip-hop, right reverend of rapture, reigning raconteur of riffitude, Joe Ugly of the Joe Ugly Show in the morning.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so for your next birthday, I need the shirt with the throwback photo on it. I need all your names on the back. Would that not be a cool party favor?
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be cool.
Everybody just wear
When's your
it.
birthday?
No, for your birthday.
Oh, for mine?
You have a party, have a throwback party,
Yeah.
and then that be the thing that everybody wear.
Well, you know what? Since I have my birthday's around Christmas party. Got it.
But here's my question about Joe Ugly.
Uh-oh.
Where's his spandex?
He burned them up
Joe,
on that 72
Joe
mile
Ugly.
ride.
There's a news angle. Joe Ugly
Yes.
was one of 1,300 people. That's what blows my
Yeah.
mind.
who
1,300
wanted
people
to ride their bikes
who
that
got
far.
on their bikes last weekend.
And nobody
Yes.
was chasing them.
Partly non-motorbikes, except for an electric bike that the mayor rode.
The electric bike is bomb. I highly
I know.
recommend
You
it.
said that with a little bit of shade,
Where-
Paul.
I know.
And
Wasn't
it
there?
actually was not
It's
shade. I
not
actually think it's
shade.
fantastic
We did
and
it.
great.
Leah and I did it last year.
But Babs is right. I was wondering how to phrase that without making it sound like
Nah,
it's
it's-
shade.
it's bomb.
And it sounds like I was
I was
failing.
It did
convinced
sound like
over
shade.
multiple miles last year that electronic bike is the way
I
to
think
go.
it's fantastic the mayor was there. And 1,300 people came out. And the reason they went was for the Rock to Rock Ride. It's an
Yes.
annual event now in New Haven. It's the
Right.
ninth one. They raise a lot of money for green causes, environmental
And common
causes.
ground.
Common ground. And they ride from one rock to the other. They have long rides, short rides, community rides, kids, grown-ups. And I just
Something
think it's
for
an
everybody.
amazing community event. There's so many people. It shows where our bike culture is and what a great city it is. But what amazes me the most, there's this one long ride.
Yes.
Joe Ugly is on the other side of a half century.
Yes.
He rode.
Yes.
More
he rode-
shade.
Yes.
No, the opposite.
Look, no,
he rode
that's shade for me
72
'cause
miles.
I'm-
Oh, and
Getting
72
closer to
miles. Joe
40.
Ugly. How did you do
and
it, Joe?
72 miles sounds
Well,
like torture.
it was a lot, like she said, it was torturous. No, actually, it was a good ride. It was
It's a
very
nice
good.
day though.
You rode
I was-
72 miles.
72 because
You must be in
I-
great shape.
I like to think I am.
How did you
No,
train
what-
for it?
Well, I've been going out all winter. You know.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ooh,
but-
So
You
where
gotta
did you
ride
go?
through
You
the
went from
winter?
West Rock to East Rock to Guilford to Cheshire.
No, it went from West Rock to Whipperong in the back of, going up 69, like you're heading towards.
Do you go up that big
Waterbury.
mountain road?
What's that?
Do you go up that big mountain road in Hamden?
Yeah, you mean Montgomery Road?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
in
There's
the
a
back
mountain road in between that connects 69 over to Whitney.
No, they're
Okay.
not. You will through the back, but yes. You know what? That was one of the first one where you come down the steep hill into
Yeah,
by
that's the hills of Hampton.
Quinnipiac.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what it is? At that point, that was child's play because I was prepping myself mentally to take on 69 because I test rode that, and I knew it was brutal, but I didn't know the actual route until the day of, and then when I saw the lead group, the mayor's son included.
Oh, yeah?
was out, yeah.
He's in
He's
shape
in
too.
really
he,
good shape.
he was gone.
And Tom
Matthew
Breen
was
from the
gone.
New Haven Independent.
Tom Breen was out there. As a matter of fact, I met up with Tom Breen because I caught a flat 11 miles in.
And they
And-
had people to fix your flat.
They had a sweeper team.
Freaking
They-
incredible.
the
Matt
flip-
Feiner from Devil's Gear,
Matt
wasn't he in
Feiner,
a
that's
car behind? That's
right.
wonderful.
That's what it is. It was a great ride. I mean, he came out, fixed the flat. We took off again. I met up Tom Breen in Durham. That's how far out we go. And
Whoa.
the biggest challenge is
I'm,
going
not,
up
I'm
in
never
Wallingford.
doing this.
In Wallingford is the biggest challenge. When you
He's
go
like, I
up
will pick
over
you up
91
if you get stuck somewhere.
and you're heading towards the Durham end, you whirl back around the water up there, and then it's, by...
Wallingford. You were up in Wallingford?
You're up in Wallingford.
It's-
then you
it's-
hit by-
Even driving to Wallingford wipes me out.
There you go.
So
is
Joe
all I'm
Ugly, how
saying.
many people are doing this big? Because a lot of people rode just like a little bit,
My
kids.
daughter did it. My daughter
She
Margot
did the
did it.
72.
And where did she ride?
No, she didn't do the 72. She was gonna do the 72. She did like whatever the
The in between.
There's a
yeah,
40.
like
Yeah,
the,
yeah,
the
something like
yeah.
Was there a big contingent doing the 72 2 miles?
Yeah, it was a good group.
So what was your takeaway, Joe? In addition to, and congratulations. In
Thank
addition
you.
that, I'm glad you're in such great shape and you had fun. What was your sense of the event? Am I right that this is an important event because it says something about where we are as a city?
I think it does a lot for the individual themselves or themselves. For me, it's about conquering, any challenges that you have. It's about being aware of your environment and how blessed we are to, when you go through the areas where this route was and you realize how much great green environment we have, you start appreciating it. Because, and you could tell the difference. And I don't know if this was done deliberately or if it just happened to be. But when you go on to the main roads and you could feel, the smoke from the vehicles, the traffic going by you, you start seeing the difference when you go off into those roads that are, less traffic and, a lot of trees, water, and you start appreciating, oh, shoot, yeah, this really makes a big difference.
So if we get 4 of us and each do 18 of the miles to match Joe, I'll do it. I'll do it if there's no hills.
They have those.
Connecticut is mad hilly though.
Oh, by the way,
that's the thing I have learned.
I went out. Matt Feiner and Johnny B from Devil's Gear. We 3 of us went out to which is known around here as the Orchard Circle. This is more hills going around Sleeping Giant.
I'm not doing any of this.
I did that on Wednesday. And I got to tell you,
I've rode my bike to Sleeping
it's
Giant.
also a great health benefit.
Oh, I know.
Because
I have a bike.
I did
good
bike
for
to
you.
work, but it's 2.5 miles and flat.
And even then, those little bumps up Edgewood, you like, why is there an incline here?
Yeah. Why would
Oh,
we have to
you
go up
do
Edgewood?
recognize those inclines
You're
when you
like,
start riding a
yo.
bike.
Harry Joes writes in.
Uh-huh.
I paid $1.80 a mile just to see if Joe would drop a lung.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
I guess that's the male twist on this thing.
Harry's like, that's the way I show my support.
Yeah, he
Appreciate it, Harry.
He had donated it.
Oh, he
on my
did?
Yeah, he donated on my
I
name.
love that.
Thank
That
you.
made me very happy.
He
So
said-
I had, so you know,
That Harry is such a good guy.
He
hey, bye, you
is.
guys. Is Ned Lamont okay?
I don't know.
I'm
He
a little
looked nice
concerned.
in his suit.
I'm a little worried about Ned Lamont.
Why?
I saw him yesterday at Tweed New Haven Airport, and like I've never seen him so animated. Like the guy had energy.
He
When
was
you're around
casket
Mayor
sharp, as they
I hope
say.
he's not. You know what? You know what
When you're
happened?
around Mayor Hop, it's automatic.
That's what I think it was. So,
Yeah.
so
Got some of that
yesterday-
black girl magic.
She's the
Yeah.
plug man.
I don't know if it's a race
Blood.
thing or just energy.
Everything is race.
So,
Paul.
Ned Lamont has been around running for office, not winning anything except Grant Selectman for about 20-something
That
years.
was shade.
That's shade.
But now he's running. Now he's
That
running for
was
governor,
shade.
and it looks like he's going to get the Democratic nomination.
Paul would throw shade on you.
And Ned Lamont running for governor for Democratic nomination. He's breaking from the pack, and the biggest break came this week, yesterday, when Tony Hart, the mayor of New Haven, who everyone's been courting, when the people running for governor had a debate at Career High, they were all basically just talking to Tony Hart. They had a big crowd there, but they were just looking at her. They were mentioning her, and like, I'm going to do great things just like Tony Hart. I did great things in the legislature with Tony Hart. I said, Tony's like, you feel like everyone's talking to you? He goes, nah, they're just facing that way because the questions come. No, they're going for Tony Hart.
Yeah.
So anyway, Tony Hart decided to endorse Ned Lamont. And she brought a crowd of people with her at Tweed New Haven Airport. And I've never seen that guy look so happy. That guy, he was lit
The
up.
taste of
That-
victory is on his lips.
And then
It's that, it's that tailwind, right? Like it's knowing that like I'm connected to somebody who's
a winner.
Say. Exactly.
And then not only that, Tony Hart was in full form. I've never seen her so
yeah.
excited
She's
about anything.
super
She
into
was
it.
What do I say? Always bet on black women.
So she's
black.
talking about why she thinks Ned has it because he had business experience, means he could tackle the budget, but he's got a heart because he taught at Harding High School when Carol Burks was the principal in Bridgeport, and that he, stands for city investment. And he was just like grinning. I thought he was going to burst. And he came in and he was like, he got inflated. So he got like pumped up.
That's what's up.
Maybe he should talk to her regularly, and then he'll be as excited about his campaign as she is, and maybe it'll translate into other people being
one thing-
excited.
one
But you
thing
know,
I
he
found-
rallied the troops before, and this is my biggest concern. I hope he learned from that. I keep bringing it up because I want to make sure people don't forget. He don't forget most of all is that he had a strong energy back in 05, 06 when he ran for
06
Senate.
against Joe Lieberman for
He
Senate
had energy then. He really rallied
for
the troops.
17 seconds.
But no, I think that vacation killed him.
That's what it was.
Oh,
So
okay.
he won a primary against Joe Lieberman. Everyone's
Right.
excited. And he says, oh, I'm tired. I'm going to go like to some waspy country club place for a few weeks. Joe Lieberman, 5 minutes later,
Yep.
was with the attack. He's run his independent, killed him. He never got his footing
Yeah.
back.
Even though, wouldn't you just run an ad about like you do the ad that says, what happens when Ed Lamont gets tired of being governor?
After a week.
Like, wouldn't you just run that ad?
After a
Like,
week.
you all clearly have that memory.
Yeah.
And so you just cut that ad.
Yeah,
Sort of like
but here's the thing.
It's sort of like the Hillary Clinton ad where they were like, basically, I wouldn't want that woman on the.
Well, Harry Joe says in his thing.
But here's the thing, Markeisha. None of those other political candidates have team savvy enough to do it. You just gave them something for free. They're not going to take it.
You're welcome.
Harry Joe's right saying, I would rather vote for Harp than Lamont, which is a question. Tony Harp decided not to run for governor.
That's true.
So everyone's trying to get her run for lieutenant governor. And so it kind of felt yesterday almost like that was in the offing because she pumps up Lamont. Although I don't think her role in life is to be the woman who pumps up the man.
Nope.
She's a mayor, and she said repeatedly on the radio here, I don't want to run for governor or lieutenant governor because I feel I get a lot done as mayor. And lieutenant governor is not the place to get a lot done. Tony Harp is coming under great pressure to run for lieutenant governor. They feel like they need a black woman near the top of the ticket. Not only that,
And
someone
not just any black woman,
Right.
her.
Right.
Like, it
someone
would have to
who
be
both
her.
knows how Hartford works, but hasn't been there for the last 5 years, so you can't blame her for what happened. The thing is, I don't know why she'd want to be number 2 second banana, except, like flying for governor. Some people are trying to tell you could do a lot. It's not as bad a job as you think. Nancy Wyman made Obamacare great with her health council. You get to break ties in the Senate, big deal. Anyone can sit there and do that. But I think the pressure's on her. So even though I do believe she's not intending it, they played coy yesterday, which surprised me. A reporter said, are you going to run with Ed Lamont? She goes, well, that's his decision to make, as though she would do it. And he said, I love Tony Harp. We all know that all the candidates have been saying we would lie down on the street for you if you would just
but you know what? Here's the thing, because I have to think about this from, honestly, black women have been saving this world for a very long time. And she doesn't owe anybody anything. If she doesn't want to do it, she don't have to do it. There's no pressure because she is in her own right a viable candidate for governor. So she doesn't need to ride on his coattails. If she wants to be governor, she certainly could run on her
telling
own.
her she has to, they're trying to convince her to think of it a different way. So from her point of view, I believe, although I can't speak for her, I mean, the argument seems to be that she's given is that she's found a really useful job here that she believes in.
And she likes it.
And a useful job where I think
she gets things done.
I think the mayor also is the type of person who's like, where can I be of the greatest good?
So that's
when
the
she was
argument
in the
they're making to her.
legislature and in charge of a powerful committee, that's where she could do the most good. When it was time for a new mayor, that was where she could do it because she had to be convinced to run to mayor.
So this is and this is the renewed argument for her. Not that you have to do it because it's what you want. So if you're looking, she's been very frustrated at this legislative session. We just found out this past week they're not even going to pass tolls. Something so easy that everyone would be for fine that would help raise some money. Sort of
this
to cut
is why
everything.
Connecticut just assassinates itself.
So the argument they're trying to make Tony Harp is with her own logic. They're trying to say you want to make things done for cities. You need to be in there and make sure the Republicans don't win because Ned Lamont is not going to be a strong candidate. If they run Erin Stewart on the Republican side, I don't see how he runs against her. 31-year-old woman who's not a Trumpy, who governs a city of Democrats and has raised tax, moderate. I don't see how he runs against that. So people are going to say, Tony Harp, if you care about New Haven, half your budget comes from Hartford. They've been screwing us. They can't even get tolls done. They're going to need you up there to make sure we don't lose this election and then make things happen in that job. So I think that's what the pressure is going to be on her.
And I'm glad you highlight that.
Wow,
because,
that's like the pressure to save
like
the whole
you said,
state.
Which she can't do. One person
it's,
can't do that. I hope she realizes that it doesn't matter who you are. You aren't like God and make whoever you are.
But I think she knows that. Like I never think that she never comes across that way.
She doesn't have an inflated opinion of herself.
So.
No. Oh, Joe, I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
No,
I insist.
No, come on, Joe.
I lost my train of thought.
I was like, I saw it happen. You were about to go. Anyway.
Well, you know why? Because he's on Pundit Friday, where it comes fast and furious on WNHH-FM, New Haven's home for community radio.
Keep up.
104.5, live streamed at New Haven. We're doing Pundit Friday with the best puns in you. So, short answer, should Tony Hart run as lieutenant governor with suddenly inflated for a minute?
Tony Hart should do whatever she thinks is best and not with the pressure that people are trying to put on her to save the state.
Joe, what do you think?
I hear what you're saying, Markeisha. Even go as far as to say I respect what you're saying.
Wow.
Babs, I echo that. But at the end of the day, how much does the state need her? A lot.
So I would argue she does more for the state being the mayor in New Haven and having successes that she can control rather than sitting there and watch the Lamont try to figure out how to run the state.
But as you stated, Paul, you need that statewide voice up there to give him that support.
They better find him somebody else.
I'm also a little selfish.
So if
I'm
they
scared
don't, then what?
Who would be our next mayor?
Me too. Marquise, that's always in the back of my mind.
I feel like we have an adult mayor.
I'm not. I think
right now.
Taisha Walker's next in line.
You think so?
Because I think it depends what the date is, but I don't think there's a special election. I could be wrong, but if she waits to,
No, I'm
Is that-
thinking like.
I think
so
the board
she would
ultimate
finish out the
president.
term.
She was just finished out the
No,
term.
I'm thinking
We're
about
talking
in
about
terms of
somebody who
when
could be
somebody
elected.
Be
and-
elected.
and-
Like
that
who
gives
that
a
person
that
would
gives a
be.
year to shake out. I wouldn't
Yeah,
worry. There
I
are
don't
lots
see
of
why she
qualified
can't
people in
be
New Haven.
elected.
There are also lots of unqualified people who would probably.
Of course they're going to be. There's always a bunch of unqualified people running. Some of them win. Look at the White House. You know, but
Exactly.
I give
Ditto.
Harry
And
Trump
that's my
20
no,
seconds
fear.
after
no,
that.
but this is why we need to get people motivated and get them out. You know, one of the things that I noticed that we don't do is that on the off season, people don't get highly motivated to get people out to polls. We have to break that cycle, and we can't just keep
Yeah.
talking
There's
about
no
it.
substitute.
We just have to do it.
I'm with
Yeah.
Joe. It's not like
Same.
you should be scared that the wrong guy wins. You got to
Right.
work. There's no substitute to having people vote and vote for good people and get good candidates out
Yeah,
there.
I hear you. I'm just.
I hear you
I have
too,
my
but
fears and
also-
concerns.
There's good candidates and there's everybody else.
There's also dirt bikes, like all over New
dirt
Haven this
bikes.
time of year. And the season started.
Yes.
People ride 20 abreast, and they do the wheelies and the crazy thing. They cover their faces. And last Sunday in Kimberly Square, there was a man and woman in a car, and dirt bikes were circling them. And one of the young men riding saw a woman get scared and complain about it. They started threatening her. They hit the car. They said
Oh
they're going
my
to take her out
God.
and beat her. And they went away, and the cops put out a bulletin for them. They found the same guys riding an hour and a half later at Whaley and Fitch across town. They were gassing up. So the police said, cops had radioed and said, I'm going in to try to meet these guys, see who they are. He parks and he's about to get out. They circle the cop car menacingly, and all these cops come up.
Did they?
And the police have a policy.
They are bold.
The police, and this is very controversial.
Oh,
How do you
my
deal with dirt bikers?
God.
Because there's no easy answer. New Haven has a policy which I really respect, which is that we almost never authorize a chase of dirt bikes because it makes it more dangerous.
Yeah.
It makes it more dangerous for the cop. We don't want cops to
all
get
the
hurt.
bystanders.
But we don't want the dirt biker to die. Remember this guy who pretty much got brain dead last
There
year?
are people in town.
He
who do
wasn't
want the
chased.
Dirt bikers in
And
They're
pedestrians. The reason dirt bikers are so dangerous, we had a kid, an 8-year-old kid, was almost run over at a bus stop. You know, we don't want them doing these kind of antics on the road because you could
It's
hurt people,
dangerous.
and it's more dangerous if you chase them. But then it's hard to catch them.
No,
so
it's
the
not.
cops also.
No, it's not.
That's true. I think you
Yeah.
got the answers. Let me just set up the
Okay,
stage.
go ahead.
So what happened was the cops showed up. The dirt bikers went away across the street, and we had a video of the cops actually went onto the grass on the edge of Edgewood Park near the Holocaust Memorial going after them because the guy had fallen off his bike, gotten off his bike, so they thought they'd catch him. But then he got back on. They sped away. They let him go. And the supervisor said, we're not chasing. We're going elsewhere and talk about what happened and try to build these cases over time. So people are really upset. Some people, especially in Edgewood, say, we've got to chase them because otherwise you just got to stop them. Other people say that's not the best way. You can build cases. They've done some building cases where they gather evidence and they get arrest warrants and they pad the bikes. They get photos. But there's a third option. I'm wondering if Joe is going to raise it. It was raised in our comments.
Video.
Yeah, video's part of it.
Okay.
You can't always get video. Like we got the video. It's kind of hard to see who they are and they cover their faces.
Okay, one of the things that does go, a lot of these bikers do, dirt bikers especially, they're all on the 12 o'clock boys ride. The thing about that is always YouTube video.
That's true.
Always.
They are. As a matter of fact,
Always.
that's actually happened in the
I know
past.
how they've been
We've
catching
run the
them.
videos, and sometimes they do find them that way.
And they find them on social media because
They're stupid.
they're stupid.
There's always
And they have made
video.
more arrests here than elsewhere, but it's still not stopped.
No.
There's an idea that keeps getting floated by an officer named Christian Brookhart. Really smart guy. He's a cop in New Haven. He believes that drones are the answer.
Ooh.
He believes they
You
should
know
have
I'm a
drones.
fan
for
of
the-
drones.
You're like, yes, drones.
And I wish I'm not enough up on the issue that people really have strong feelings on both sides, informed feelings, worrying about too
Until
much
people
clutter.
shoot them
They
down. But
think
I'm
sometimes-
for them.
Yeah, and they think the drones sometimes make a situation more dangerous with the clutter or the distractions. I don't know, or they could crash,
Well, I mean,
Oh,
they
the-
could crash.
Well, here's the thing that I want to know.
or a police
When
state,
we put
surveillance
when
state.
we put
We already in a
drones-
surveillance state.
no, but when we put drones
go
in the
stand
sky,
at the corner of church and chapel. You
Right.
under surveillance.
true. But when we put drones in the sky, is it just for that? Or
Oh yeah, it's like, is it limited to that? Like you have to have all
Exactly.
kinds of
Like,
protocols.
Joe, are you
although I'm
suggesting a
getting the
conspiracy?
bikers, but then I see the prostitutes over here. Do
Yeah.
I get two birds with one stone? What happened?
Mhm.
And then I see like
It's a
Babs Rolls
Pandora's box,
Ivy
right?
secretly working for a candidate she wasn't supposed to be working for. Do we tell our politician who's in power?
And you know that'll never happen.
Right.
But
And Jesse Phillips writes in, good convo. Love you guys. Love you back. Thanks for listening to Pundit Fridays.
yay!
So the dirt biker thing's not easy. I tend to believe that good detective work and building even sources.
I say a wire
I
across
always
the
think
road.
that. I think that was
Tripwire. Ouch. Babs.
Sorry. I'm
Tumble,
sorry.
tumble.
It's such an interesting
it is.
it's such an interesting problem that all urban environments seem to have. Like I'm from the South, so dudes on dirt bikes don't do that in the street because they have like a whole woods to go do that in. So like it's literally it seems to be a phenomenon of urban.
Well, you're on
environment.
point. Some people say give them a place to ride.
Yeah.
No, that's
Other
not gonna
people
work.
say that's not going to work. It's
Yeah,
part of the
because they're not going to
thrill.
go there because
Part
the
of
thrill is being
thrills
in the street.
and flipping the bird to the
Yeah.
cops and covering your
I also
face.
have one other kind of layer of this, which in addition to some of the things that so the police are looking for, and I don't want police to necessarily have contact with young people in this way, but there also is a culture of bike riding aside from our lovely bike riding where people rock to rock, that type
Like
of
you
thing.
meet Joe Ugly going 72 miles.
Exactly. But the kids who, and I know you see them downtown because you work
Right.
in that, right in that section where they do it, which is that they do the tricks and the wheelies all in the street, like being really dangerous.
Right.
Like I've seen them. I saw a kid challenge an 18-wheeler right at that
Really?
intersection.
With a
And
pedal bike?
with a pedal bike. Like
Yeah,
he
that's
like
one of the-
rode
Wow.
right
Right.
between that building, because you know how when
Right.
you make that wide left turn onto Chapel Street,
Right,
going
okay,
toward
from
State
Temple to
Street,
Chapel.
going to State Street.
Yeah.
Like he's between the building and the 18-wheeler that's turning. Like literally that close from dying and no fear, right? Like, and people at the bus stop, like the grown-ups at the bus stop, are yelling and cussing at this kid, like, "You're a stupid idiot, you're gonna get killed. If you were my kid, I'd beat you to death." You're like, "Whoa, calm down, slow down." But like they were literally yelling, and he didn't even look back.
Yeah.
He just rode off,
Oh,
and his
my
friends rode off.
Lord.
But one of
And
the
I've
things
also seen, sorry, one more
No,
thing,
no,
and I've
I'm
also
sorry.
seen the kids in the summer the same way the bike riders ride in mass. On the dirt bikes,
Right.
like they'll have a ride out. I've
Right.
seen the kids on the little bikes do ride outs. I saw like a swarm of 50 kids one time, and they just rolled past like a swarm of bees.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the heck just happened here? Where are they going?
Yep, I've seen
So
that.
on one level, I think today's young stunt bike rider in the city is tomorrow's dirt bike rider. Like literally those kids, as soon as they get big enough to get on an ATV or a dirt bike. But I don't necessarily want cops profiling these kids and hemming them up because they can catch them on a bike.
But you know,
But they are violating traffic laws by being in the street that way. So I don't.
when I was,
that's a hard problem for me.
I think back to when I was their age, we used to do the same thing. As a
we're
matter of fact,
fearless.
absolutely.
You did wheelies on dirt bikes with a mask?
Or
on regular
wheelies on a
regular bikes.
BMX bike.
BMX bike. You did that. You rode like that. You rode in groups. I remember one time we rode out. It was something like about 80 of us from Ashman Street
Really?
Projects. It was so many. They
You know,
were
that
working
sounds like
on,
fun on a
you know,
trip.
the Kimberly Avenue Bridge over there. They were working on that thing, and they just had boards across that thing, and we rode over that thing. So you know, that's kids being kids at the end of the day. When I look back on it, it was total knucklehead. What were I, like 15, 16, 14, 15 years old? I didn't have license. So my thing is that I understand that, but the thing is how to cultivate that energy. And I look at that, and one of the things that I want to do here in the city of New Haven is to work with, actually, I've already started with like Devil's Gear and working with other groups to organize a team, a cycling team, and let them realize it's more than just wheelies. It's about race. If you want to race, get into different cycling races. There are a lot of them.
Or if you're
And
into
try to-
that BMX stuff, there is like
It's just a whole bunch
there's a
of stuff
whole
out
thing
there.
for
So-
that.
Last year there was a
Just to
police
get them to
officer on the
understand
east
that they
side
can't
who was
do it.
into bikes, like motorbikes, and he did a truce with the gang out there who rides. And they clawed off certain streets or certain areas, and they agreed not to ride in the street. And the cops even came and cheered them on. So once in a while it can work.
You have
And
to
I think there are
cultivate that
more
energy.
cops that have those kind of like interests. And
Yeah,
it's
they
like
do.
if they were gonna have contact with those kids in a way to be like, hey, so riding a dirt bike, if that's your next thing, because you're like looking for the next thrill, right?
Right.
If that's your next thing, don't. And if you do, this is how to do it and not get
And
in
that
trouble
officer
doing
had
it.
credibility because of what he's involved in, and because of the way he had policed on the east side. And he got them to come to the station and come to the agreement. It's tough to
but
do.
our readers felt a way about that because they're like, you know, that officer was
Gargano,
were like they were working with a white bike rider to be able to put on these types of events and to make it in a way that's it's still as cool as they want it to be, but
Right.
like within the legal limits. But people felt like, oh, it'd be different if these are black kids or
Right.
black guys on bikes, and no officer is taking the time to make sure that they don't go to jail over it. Like literally the process right now is like we want to capture these people and put them in jail because they are behaving dangerously.
Right.
Like no doubt.
You could kill a kid.
No
They
question
could
about it.
kill a kid. They could
kill
kill a
anyone,
cop. They
actually.
could kill anyone.
Anyone.
Themselves.
And the fact
The guy on Grand Avenue last year, I don't know if his brain's ever going to work right again.
Exactly.
You know,
So Harry
you said
Jones is concerned.
they were circling a cop over at the gas station.
They circled
Yeah.
Esserman and taunted him when they did.
One of the things that, if you look at these YouTube videos, which I watch a lot of
Yeah,
this
me
stuff.
too. I watch this stuff too.
These
yeah.
kids,
They're good. They're kind of funny.
they challenge cops. It's like
music is
part of
funny.
that
That's
whole.
part of the culture.
I met
part
the
of
guy who makes the
culture.
videos.
So you
It's
have
finished
to
it,
like
yeah.
get it. You know, look at it for what it is and say, okay, this is what you're gonna do. This you're gonna display it somewhere. They don't take the video for no reason. They're gonna display it somewhere
Yeah,
because
they don't.
everyone wants their 15 minutes of fame.
Yep.
Yeah. And Harry
how
Jones
you
is concerned about drones. He said, would they have an open warrant to everything it sees and eliminate all privacy?
We know,
and Harry
Harry.
says, Joe was the leader of a bank gang, shaking my head.
Harry's like, I got
made me the
zingers
leader.
even when I'm at the house.
I think the biggest news in New Haven this week was that for the second time in a week, a person who had been improperly convicted of a crime he didn't commit in 1999 murder outside Dixville Deli, he was freed. His name is Marquise Jackson. The week before, Vern Horton, also arrested in that case, were freed. They had they'd had their conviction upheld through many, they'd been in jail for like 18 years. They'd had their conviction upheld through many appeals.
God,
Like Scott Lewis, they had their last
Whole
chance
life
with a
lost,
federal
man.
habeas
And
corpus.
I grew up with Scott Lewis. Like he was my neighbor.
Oh yeah, he's a good guy.
Him and his sister Marlo. And,
I know Marlo.
Yeah. they're
So
cousins.
these guys, what happened was that when they did a habeas corpus petition, it came before a really good judge, Jeffrey Meyer, at the U.S. District Court in New Haven. He said, this looks so interesting. We get a lot of these, but why doesn't the Federal Public Defender Office take a crack at this? So they have a whole team of people researching. They had a bunch of Yale students, a Quinnipiac professor. They did all this recreating the trail of phone calls, cell records, where calls are made from, where the cell towers are, to prove that the key piece of evidence to convict these guys was that they had made a phone call a certain place that showed they had the phone that was taken in the robbery murder, and that it was physically impossible for them to have made those phone calls. And their other lawyers didn't see that. And what happened over the years is many of these cases, it turned out, they were convicted on the basis of the testimony of the guy who actually committed the murder and had an incentive to get
Plea deal.
to lie on the stand to get less of
It's a plea.
sentence. And by the time he admitted he lied, it didn't matter anymore because our system's so stacked against this, you can't revisit it. Although there's a new bill in the legislature this year from Martin Looney to make it easier for new evidence to free somebody and not have a time limit on when you can use DNA evidence. So these guys got freed through the great work of the public defenders. Last week was the first, and this week was Marquise Jackson. And one of our readers, Samuel Ross Lee, had a really interesting thought. Let's put aside like the very specifics of his request. He was upset the first week when the guy was freed because we showed him smiling. Because when he came out of court free, he was happy. And he smiled a lot. And Samuel Ross Lee said, we should be angry at this, not happy. The white people in the media who decide what images to show when there's news want to show that it's a happy story when in fact it's a bad story because it shows there's so much injustice and just one guy got out. We got to keep fighting. And while you could like argue about it, well, gee, that's the only photos we have. The guy was smiling. Can't change what people do. It's also true that you have a lot of photos to choose from every time you have an article. And you do make a choice consciously or subconsciously what's going to be interesting. Like for me, I love seeing a guy getting free and celebrating.
Yeah, but
And
I
thought a lot-
understand what Sam Ross
Me
is
too.
saying.
Me
And I
too.
feel it because,
Yeah.
listen, let me tell you
As soon as you
something.
said it,
When
I
there's
felt-
some shooting or some drama that goes in our neighborhood, you know what they do? They don't look for the best photos of us.
Correct.
Right?
They don't.
Correct.
And oftentimes they play to the stereotype of what they believe we look like, and they look for that.
I agree with him too.
I mean,
that-
I'm the press too, so I get it. But
So I agree with him too. And like so this week when we had this freeing, we got a bunch of pictures. We had great pictures of him smiling, the guy getting out, and we had a hunt for one that wasn't. But I think Ross Lee was right. If you have no other photos, you gotta go with what you got. He's the
Right.
guy who got out. But we had an option of one, not when he was mad, but just like he was hugging someone with his eyes closed, who the guy had been freed the week earlier. And I think that was a very useful input on a reader. And
I
thanks,
appreciate
Ross
his
Lee.
input. I disagree with his.
All right, let's
his
hear what you have to
premise
say.
Because it on one level it is still a personal victory for that person. No, we can't. It's hard to take a photo that shows how broken a system is, right?
But I think it did. But the second picture, I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, I want
but
to finish.
think
Let Marquise finish. That's what he says.
I apologize.
And I do want to hear what you have to say.
And so like it's a personal victory to have spent all that time in prison and to be vindicated. And I think it's perfectly fine to show that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think throughout the rest of the story, I think with headlines, we can show like the tragedy of the system, like what you were talking about. What it made me think was, would that we had a system that actually worked on the premise that innocent until proven guilty, which means let's prove how you're innocent instead of how you're guilty. Our system is based on a system.
Well, once you're convicted in Connecticut, you're no longer innocent until proven guilty. So the state Supreme Court, as with
Scott
Scott
Lewis,
Lewis,
before you were even convicted, the premise was to prove that you did this, not that you didn't.
I agree,
and that's a very different place.
Scott Lewis,
and when you put all of that, if every person who goes before the criminal justice system had what these guys eventually got on the front end, because what happens on the front end is they're like, look, if you say you did X, Y, or Z right now, you get 3 years.
Well,
you do 3 years, you go home, it's a wrap. And that is what is offered particularly to poor people, to minority folk. It's like, look, take this deal, because if you don't take this deal and we find out, or we can figure out a way to prove that they figure out the way to prove that you are guilty of this crime, they're going to throw the book at you.
And of course, the best example, Scott Lewis, he was a guy who spent 17 years he was framed by a very crooked detective. The FBI had proved this detective was a cocaine addict and was protecting big drug dealers, and they framed him for murder. And what was interesting, that case was similar in this case. I agree with Marquise about the problems up front, but then in Connecticut, once you're found guilty, they won't release you unless you are not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Usually you have to be proved that you're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Once you're convicted, they have to prove you're innocent beyond a reasonable doubt. So this case, before Judge Meyer gave them a good legal team, they went to the state Supreme Court, which is what Scott Lewis did too. They said, look at all this. Like Scott Lewis, crooked detective, FBI proved it. They got off the force. He was doing cocaine. He was protecting he made all those people lie. They said, but that doesn't prove you're innocent. It just proves that if the trial was starting all over and you had a better lawyer, you probably wouldn't have been convicted. And that was the case here. This guy changed his story. I mean, he obviously got the lighter sentence, and now he admits it, and other people too. There's no good evidence. There's no longer anywhere near a case that convict him. And they'll say, it doesn't have to still be a strong case. And that is screwed up. At least the state's attorney this time. This didn't used to happen. In New Haven, the state's attorney used to say he was a good man. They're going to have to prove it. Or otherwise, everyone's going to come in and change something, get someone to change their mind later, and they're going to have to prove it. Even when it was so clear, Scott Lewis spent a lot of extra years in jail because the state's attorney wasn't willing to just see how broken this case was. He was worried about a precedent where everyone comes in.
I think all this is wonderful stuff, but for me, it's the imagery of what is
right. A photo says so much more.
Because listen, I've watched over those years that Scott was in the press, and they never showed good pictures of him. Not one time.
You know how hard it is
not
to get a
his
good
high
picture of someone
school
in jail when they don't
pictures,
let you
not
bring
his.
it. Well, they didn't let us bring a photo to jail.
And that is where I was going to add. So on the flip side of that,
if I go to jail, there's a lot of pictures you could pull from me.
What people don't understand, I had the same problem. So when I was writing stories about an Air Force general who did something
I've been
wrong,
to jail. I have good pictures.
They wouldn't let me actually go to him and take his photo. But they always had high resolution photos of every commander on a website. But it was always a picture of the guy smiling. Well, when you just got convicted of something terrible, or you just are found to have been harassing your subordinates, you don't really want a picture out front of you smiling because you look crazy. You're like, why is this guy so happy? Look at this guy.
So
people actually feel a certain derision for people who've done something bad, and you show pictures of them smiling. I don't know.
I think the pictures that I had of me out there when I went,
I'm getting there
really
bad.
good.
I'm getting there bad. And you might like that. That's fine. But in the moment, what is clearly happening for press folks is that we are covering something that's happening in the moment. Mm-hmm. We're trying to show what is happening today, right now, literally this minute. What we do to show the injustice of the system is you do the follow-up story where you have maybe posed photos of people. I think that maybe the New York Times did a great series where they actually went back to people who'd been wrongly convicted, and they had pictures that were portraits of people. And they were in places that were like that looked a particular way. That's when you can have a thoughtful, we do both. And I think you can't be mad at us because we have to literally we've taken, not us personally, but I've seen photojournalists who've taken photos. The only photo they can get is when the person is being perp walked, because there are rules around taking pictures in courthouses. There's so many rules around.
And then they give that's the one reason we almost never run a mug shot, because that always shows them at their worst.
Exactly.
It
but we choose
them.
to do that there's no blanket rule in journalism that says you have to do it this way. I think we take a thoughtful approach about doing it a particular way. So I absolutely appreciate Samuel T. Ross's point. I appreciate Babs's point about but you have to have time. You literally have to have time to make those kinds of decisions. And
I
when we're
agree with
covering
Marquisha,
an
says Harry
immediate
Dross.
Oh no, I don't
thing right
disagree
now,
with her. I
we
think
have
she's
to take
I
the
think she's
picture that we
right.
can, the pictures that we can get, and then make decisions. And
I
we
think
did.
both things
I
are
actually
true.
disagreed with the photo that we used of them hugging because I think you can't see their faces. And this is about faces. This is about putting real faces on this issue. And I think the second picture where they're surrounded by all their supporters and the people who've worked so hard to get them out of prison, and them being happy about their individual triumph over a system that
Is unjust.
totally unjust.
And you could argue it gives hope to people that you can fight and win.
Exactly. And it also keeps it out there that these are real people who've had the system do an injustice to them, and that you can, if you have to keep pushing to triumph.
That was
over
Scott
it.
Lewis's point, is that he says, I wasn't thinking positive that I was thrown in jail for something I didn't do. I was thinking positive that if you keep pressing, you can prevail.
No,
Joe, what were you saying?
No, what you just said right there is even more interesting. He said what?
He said, because he had this positive attitude, because
This
everyone was
was in
giving
his
up.
comment?
No, when I was talking to Scott Lewis,
Scott Lewis.
Oh, okay.
who
Yes.
had been in jail for
Right. Different guy.
almost 2
But you said
decades
he
for
wasn't
things.
happy because I want to.
He said he always stayed positive. I said,
Oh, he
how'd you
always
stay
stayed
so
positive.
positive?
Oh, okay.
Because, you were running out of appeals. Everyone abandoned you. The state Supreme Court had this crazy reason you couldn't
Right.
be free. He said, I did believe one day I was going to get out. I believe you can keep pressing and fight and win. That doesn't mean I believe it's just. Doesn't mean I'm not angry that it's unjust. Doesn't mean that I'm happy about it.
Right.
But it means that a positive attitude.
Well, why shouldn't
Can
he
make
be happy
sense.
about it? This man spent 18 years of his life. If he chooses to be happy about being freed, let him be happy.
And
But the
here's
point is,
thing,
what
if
image
he
do we
were
show?
like if they were
But you know,
angry,
Marquisha
like if
raised a good
everybody was
point,
angry out there, we would be taking pictures of angry people.
I heard what you said, Babs, when you said, how we always present us as, the bad side. And I understand Sam Ross Lee's point.
Mm-hmm.
Marquisha, you made a heck of a point when you said you're looking at you putting a face on the story. We have to put a face on it. And we have to show others that, this person went through hell and back, and this is the result.
There are a lot of
And you're
faces in the
putting
same
it in
person.
here.
Absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
Marquis's other point is that we have limited on the ground. We have limited
Unlimited,
possibilities on the photos, but I think you can both be right. I think Sam Ross Lee.
That's why I think we
point is
both
that
can be
Sam
right.
Ross is going to try as hard as you can.
But
Think
And that's why I
twice,
said I
3
appreciate his
times
point. I don't
about what
disagree
you're
with it.
picking.
There are ways that we, within the context of the scope of the way we do our work, to
And
do
I
that.
think
as I
think
was
it-
going to
in the
say,
moment might
now
not be
that
the
I
time to do that.
I understand what Babs said, and you raised a good
Absolutely.
point, and I understand what
I think
Marquisha
they're
said.
all good points.
So is there supposed to be some? Now, should journalists now create this formal structure of what type of pictures to take?
No, I think we
I
should
think we
do-
do what we do, which
Thank
is be
you.
very, at least what we do as the New Haven Independent, is be thoughtful. Listen to the opinions of people like Sam
That's what
T.
I
Ross,
mean.
who we respect greatly.
Right.
Listen to his opinions and take that under advisement.
Right.
We took, I believe, when we chose the pictures for the second story,
Mm-hmm.
that we were very mindful of his comments. That's why he was pleased with those photos.
Mm-hmm.
I was not pleased. I thought there were much better photos in the story that better illustrated the story.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we live to fight another day. This is a daily news organization.
Mm-hmm.
And every time is a time to reevaluate how we do something. And we take the opinions of you, and we take the opinions of Babs, who we love and we respect. So if Babs says something, we're like, oh, okay.
And you know what else we do? You know what else we do every Friday?
And the
we
same
look,
is true with Sam T. Ross. Shout out to Sam T. Ross.
and every Friday, what else we do
You know
is
what
we
the
run
T
down the
stands for.
headlines from the week on Pundit Friday here, which
True.
is what you're listening to at WNHH 103.5, live streamed at newhavenpin.org. We got the pundits, best pundits in the media universe, running
Absolutely,
down the
baby.
headlines of the week,
Absolutely.
which included
We battle it out in here.
What's the next
what
thing to be
happens
heated about?
when you got to make a decision. Let's say you've been elected to office, and the community's asking you to do 2 things, and you agree with them, but they conflict. Everyone in New Haven's telling our elected officials, tax is too high. You got to keep taxes down. You got to find ways to get new tax from other people so we don't pay as much or cut stuff. They're also saying we need affordable housing. If we don't have more affordable housing, people can't afford to live here, and that's unjust. And both those things are true. So now you got a proposal in the Mill River District, other side of Worcester Square from the Highway I-91, old factory building. It's totally polluted. We haven't been able to do anything with decades. Might have to be torn down. It's still going to cost millions to clean up. Some developer comes in and says, I can clean up. I can get the money, most of the money. Got to give me a little help. I can clean it up. I can turn it into apartments. It's going to be real nice. Low-income people have artists there. But I need a little help because I got to get money for it to build it. He's going to get, $37 million? And he's got private financing, but they won't give it to me unless they know they're going to make their money back. And that's going to include, it costs more if it's going to be affordable housing because we don't get as much rent. So we need a little break on our taxes. Not a little break. 17 years, we want to freeze it where the taxes are.
17 years.
So Harvard administration
That's
said,
what people were
Harvard
saying, like-
administration said, good idea, because otherwise it's never going to happen.
Or
It's
we're
gonna bring
always just going to
housing.
keep getting the amount of taxes that we're currently
So they
getting
put
on
in
that
the
property.
proposal to be approved by the board of aldermen, but New Haven said what Bob just said, 17 years, my tax is going up 11%.
Tomorrow.
and you're going to give these guys the same amount of taxes they're paying now. And so they had it. Markeisha last night went through a 3.5 hour props to Markeisha debate about this, where the developer came and the city alders came together. And unlike you often see this situation, they were on the same side rather than a different side. They said, let's make it less of a break, figure out how to do it, but make sure you can still build the project. So they came up with a compromise they're going to work on and maybe make it not as big a tax break, but find out how they can make that happen. And what did you find out, Markeisha?
And I found out that the developer, this particular developer, which is pretty amazing, is
Renewable.
amenable to that. Like, he's like, I mean, yes, there's always the potential to walk away from a deal, but he's like, look, if we can make the numbers work, if what we work out doesn't trigger like the default provisions in my agreement with my lender, I'm good. He's like, I'm not going to make, this is not a project that's a money maker for me. He's the developer, which is Reed Realty Group, they're based out of Portland, Oregon. They do these type of historic factory renovations that, you know, become artist space, become affordable housing. They are doing that all over the country.
Is there a chance that I could get a loft over there?
They're not doing,
Get a paintbrush.
it's called the Clock Shop Lofts, but you want more square footage, even though they're going to be like at least like 1,000 square feet.
That's
actually.
a lot of space.
So a lot of space. So
1,000?
Babs like, yeah, like, because there was actually a question about like these places are going to be huge.
If I could get another 500 feet, though.
I don't know,
You don't need
maybe.
Well, Babs is going to get the
1,000
penthouse
square
at the
feet.
Alexion Tower when that goes bust and they make that
Yeah,
residential.
I'm looking for that too.
You can invite us for your 56th birthday there?
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. But what I thought was interesting about this whole discussion is that ultimately, even though we're kind of in a rock and a hard place, this is an old building. It's probably going to fall down if they don't get somebody to develop it in the next 5 years or so. We need affordable housing in the city, and there's this conversation going on about how do we get more affordable housing. We already know that our own housing authority has a waiting list that is like 10,000 people long or something
like
crazy
5,
like
6
that.
years or something like
Exactly,
that.
where they just stop taking people because they're like, after this point, there's literally no way you're going to get housing. So we have this kind of perfect storm to do this thing. But so it's because of all of the moving parts of it and how quickly the timelines need to happen. I think it actually is a thing where we're going to get a result that maybe neighbors who feel like their rents, like their taxes are about to go up, might not be all the way happy with, but they won't feel like the city gave away the farm.
Yeah.
Like that we're not in a bad situation
And I
where
think
because
that's
of
the
that
point.
we gave away the farm and
Yeah.
let some developer have like this big huge tax
Yeah.
break. They're saying no, we'll get it back on the tax rolls some point, possibly definitely earlier than 17 years, maybe not as early as 5 years, which is some alders propose that, but like we'll get it back on the tax rolls at a what the rate of it is. It'll still be affordable housing for 30 years. Like he can't sell it. Like he can't go into this deal, hook it up. And also I thought a good point that he makes that developers or that no one ever actually really talks about is that they're going to do a high-end development of this place, right? It's going to be 130 units of affordable housing. But to do that, like he's doing as much work as went into Winchester Lofts. But he's not going to collect market rate on the rents. So that means he's not going to make his money back, right? And he's looking like he needs some type of subsidy. Somebody has to give somewhere so he can do that.
But we have to know that about anybody who comes in and wants to do that.
And that's
like,
why there's
nobody
so
is
much
gonna
market rate
come
apartments.
with that kind of benevolence and say, I'm gonna make affordable housing for everybody, and I don't want a dime of it.
Well, that's the thing. It
who's
physically
doing
can't
that?
be done because you can't get the money to build it then. So that's the inherent pressure,
And
I
the
think,
ongoing
between
operating costs.
wanting to
I-
build
listen,
affordable housing
But
and
people
wanting
don't
to
ever
keep
talk
taxes.
about that people feel like the developers are getting a steal when they
Well,
get a tax
sometimes
break.
they are.
Sometimes they are, particularly if it's for market rate apartments or very small number of
We have a
affordable
history in New Haven.
apartments.
They gave 99-year
Absolutely.
property to chase people to build that tower
But
off
that's
the
when we
green.
felt like the city was like at such a low point that we had to give it away. The city's at a pretty like people want to come here develop. They're willing to pay whatever they need to pay, and they're like, we got our own money.
So the whole dilemma is, we said we want affordable housing in the mix. It ain't free.
It ain't free.
You got to build it. It costs some money. Maybe they could do a little cheaper sometimes than others, but we want decent housing for affordable housing
And we
too.
want quality affordable housing.
So how do we
it can't
do
be
it?
tents.
So if
It's
we,
got to be
so
quality.
if we argue right
And
or
that's
wrong,
the other thing. They're not going to create something that is just kind of so-so or
So
like
how do you pay
average or
for it?
cinder block crappy stuff. They want to produce something nice. And how you pay for it is this very complicated thing that they've arranged where they're getting tax credits here. They're borrowing a little private money here. Like they're really taking.
But like you went to the groundbreaking this week for a project. I think most people support Hill Downtown on Gold Street.
They do.
And he was going to build that with no help from the city.
Yep.
So he said he's got downtown. They said in the Hill neighborhood, they said we want 30% affordable housing. He said fine, but I can't afford doing unless you find me subsidies. So the state came through with subsidies. Aren't going to happen forever. Can you do it without subsidies if we want that as one of our goals?
I think there's no incentive in the country anymore because back in the day, isn't that how oh God, I'm going to say it. Donald Trump's father made his money, which is that he was actually in the affordable housing business.
Right.
But back then the federal government was providing a lot of subsidies to developers. So they made their money hand over fist.
Right.
But now, like more and more, the development of any affordable housing, and it's gone down significantly, has been pushed into how do you make it viable for private funders because the federal government's like,
Didn't Trump's father also get sued for racial discrimination?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Joe, what were you saying?
Well, you raised a point when you said that quality housing, that's very important. This whole strip of land over there on East Street, Chapel Street area there, that whole strip of land, this all the way back to Grand Avenue, is desolate right now.
Mm-hmm.
The chances of you let someone like this come in and make that quality, affordable housing,
it is a game changer for that
it opens
former
up the
bus
gate
district.
for other developers to come in
And
then make
the argument.
and raise, market.
And
market
maybe
rate
Joe's
housing
got a
right
good
in that
point here
area.
because we could
So
think a
that's why we
city
need-
isn't one tract of land. So the city's changed where people want to build everywhere, but they don't want to build there.
No, exactly.
That is
exactly.
a wasteland.
So if
And
you,
so Joe,
that corridor up there.
yeah, by East and Hamilton.
And
where
Because
so much-
you gotta do so much
and so much of it is
remediation,
environmental
right?
and there's no
It's
community there.
expensive.
It's not like people are going to say, "I
Yeah.
want to move
But
here and have
you
a
know
place."
what? You could put community anywhere. So
Anyway.
I'm a fan of that.
So
But
if you stop
but they
with
have to
quality
clean up that
afford-
land so much
but
that
if
it
you
would just
stop
be
with
that is
cost
not
quality
viable
prohibitive.
to
affordable
people.
housing, you start seeing people who want to pay market who could literally make other types of
Absolutely.
housing for other individuals. And in today's world where we don't just set aside people for affordable housing or low income anymore,
Yeah.
we
Right.
incorporate them into. In my building, we have people of
But see, that's a
affordable
different
housing.
way. Sometimes you can
that-
subsidize it through higher rents for the wealthier people. That's another way it's being done in a place like New York where they say, but they don't do 30%. Like we asked
They
Randy
do like
Salvador, 30%.
10%.
Or we don't do a whole affordable
Like
housing
30%
project.
is kind of high.
But if they're
actually.
going to put 10% in or 20, they often feel the developer can then charge more for the market rate rents to subsidize the other rents. That's another way to do it without
But
hitting
that's
the
what we want.
taxpayer.
I think we need a. I don't think there's one solution to this. One
It's
type
all the
of
solutions.
housing, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't want a concentration of poor people because we've seen projects
Exactly.
over the last 50 years.
Co-
And I think, and so that's why, like, this
And
is
especially
also,
like where you lived, and it started off with such a great idea.
Yes.
Church Street South.
Yes.
It was a beautiful
Affordable
idea.
housing.
Affordable housing, and the architect of
It wasn't
was
public
this-
housing; it was affordable housing.
housing.
Right, and then it turned into
And that's
Whatever.
that's why this project also, like, so it was initially billed as a project to attract, like, as an artist affordable housing space. It's going to probably be some mixture of artists as well as just regular people who need affordable housing. And so what kind of came out last night is that, so in Bridgeport, there's a place called Reed's Art Space, which is in a former Reed's department store
yes,
that was
yes.
on
Downtown.
Broad in Bridgeport. And so that's become an artist loft space. It's got 61 units in there. They said, on the day they opened, the place was completely occupied. They rented the whole place. And then on top of that, like, there's been like a bloom of like an arts renaissance in that area where people are creating art all over the city. And it's, so you have like this, it's not just an internal thing. It's not just a benefit for the artist. So think about what you said. That whole community is very desolate. There's not really any community there.
Right.
Well, the city and the state and the federal government has made a big, significant investment in redoing Farnham Courts. Have you seen Farnham Courts
Yes.
lately?
A
It
block
looks
away.
Yes.
amazing.
Looks
It's a block
beautiful.
Is
away.
that right?
So you have that investment, this investment,
Helps
with
the
artists
other one.
who are like painting all over the place and creating. Think about another venue for like culture. I was really sad that Andy Wolf wasn't there because I'm like, this is like another opportunity to say, hey, look, we're bringing an artist community here, which is going to attract entertainment spaces. Can you
Right.
think about the cool entertainment spaces
Right.
that somebody could create? They're going to have a
They
gallery
had a
in
strip
that
joint
place.
there in the same building
You said a strip joint?
The
where they got
strip
shot. Remember the
joint
Key
will
Club?
probably
Oh, yeah.
go away. unless it's like burlesque. Like the strip joint would go upscale. I'm assuming. But like, think
We're not
about
trying to hate on
it's
strippers.
One more, no, get your money, y'all. It's one more place in a city that has a reputation
I agree.
for arts and culture to have yet another place in the city that's cool, funky, and like also there are regular working class people who live there, which is what makes those spaces.
Can I get an
great
amen,
anyway.
somebody?
Amen.
Amen.
So I'm sold. I know people feel the way their taxes are going up, but if they can work this thing out, maybe there's a way that we all can be a little happy about it.
Markeisha Ricks figured it out on Pundit
I
Friday.
didn't, but I learned a lot.
Can you just tell them, my friend Babs?
I will.
She needs
they're
one
very
space
nice
with
people. I think
five
you
So,
could call
Babs,
them.
you're going to have two places, the Alexion Penthouse and
She's like, I need a place
Artist
on
Love.
all sides of town.
I need an uptown space and a
You need a
downtown
lot.
space.
That's right. That's right.
Well, we figured it
I'm
out.
trying to live like Joe Ugly.
We figured it out on Pundit Friday on WNHH-FM. Thanks, everyone, for listening today. Thanks to the best pundits in the media universe, Babs Rawls-Ivy. Happy birthday, Babs. We love you. Markeisha Ricks, Joe Ugly, the man in the spandex, 72-mile bike rider. Next week, Harry Drost will be back, although he was kind of here this week, too, because he put a lot of comments on Facebook. Norma Rodriguez-Reyes will be back. I'm Paul Bass, thanking you for joining us. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. Now, we know what it's like to be free. We just got to remember to book our flight. Book it and fly free with us all weekend long here at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.